Hi everyone, Magnus here. Today's video is all about early queen attacks and how newer players can defend against them and stop feeling under pressure, blundering checkmates, and losing rooks and other pieces in those classic opening traps with the wayward queen variation. So, starting off with the black pieces, white goes pawn to e4, looking to bring out their queen, and a lot of players are going pawn to e5. Now, later on in this video, I will be showing you how you can play pawn to c5 and get even better positions against these wayward queen attacks and avoid all of the traps entirely. But let's start off with pawn to e5, and I'll show you how to defuse this relatively simply as well. So, queen to h5 comes, and here where a lot of players go wrong is they either attack the queen with the knight or with the pawn. And attacking the queen with the knight causes you to lose this pawn here in the center, which isn't actually that bad. You can develop here and here, but it's not worth doing. So you shouldn't attack the queen with the knight. You need to be aware of what the queen is doing. It's attacking this pawn and it's trying to put some pressure on your f-pawn. So same thing with pawn to g6. You should be avoiding these big blunders at all cost, because after pawn g6 they simply take with this classic tactic. I'm sure lots of you have seen this before. And after you block, they will take your rook in the corner. Okay, so first things first, you should really try and defend this pawn. The easiest way to do this is with the knight coming out to c6, guarding this pawn. And after bishop to c4, which I'm sure many of you have seen a lot, people target this f7 pawn, and this can be quite scary to deal with. A lot of the time you'll see moves like knight to f6 get played and a quick blunder of checkmate in one. Once again, not recognizing the fact that there is two attackers on this pawn and the king is the lone defender. So after bishop c4, the way to go is actually pawn to g6. You can kick back the queen, and the point is that the queen now can't take with this same tactic because you've got the knight here defending. Loads of players go back to f3 insisting that they want to checkmate you, but this is actually no good, because you can simply develop this knight here, and there's no bishop to get a pin, and even if there was, you could break the pin and it's not a big deal. And this knight now interferes the queen's attack with the pawn, and this queen also becomes a tactic for the knight here, which can threaten a fork, which you'll see in Tactics 101 as a forkable square. c2 is undefended, and the king and rook are lined up for the knight to take advantage. So very often here you might get a move like knight to h3, going for this g5 square, trying to attack the f7 pawn with the bishop, because the white player is just going all in for this attack. Additionally, you might get moves like g4, which we'll also take a look at, but knight to h3 can get played. And knight h3 is not a good move, because you simply put your knight in the center, attacking the queen. If the queen goes all the way back to defend, I'll show you what you should do. But first, let's start with this move, queen to c3. You have a very nice little tactic here with bishop to b4, and if the queen takes the bishop, then you get to take with check, forking not only the king and the rook, but also winning the queen. So the queen shouldn't really be straying over this way. It becomes a very weak piece, so the queen should go back to the starting square. But from here, you can lash right out with this move, pawn to d5, attacking the bishop, and let's say they take here with the pawn. You can instead of taking first, what you can actually do is play bishop to g4, inducing this pawn move to f3, and then you can take the knight, and then after taking back, you can play knight to h5, and you'll bring your queen into h4, and they'll be in lots and lots of trouble. Let's say that they castle, you give a check here, you can go knight to f4, or you can go, apparently you can sacrifice the knight here, but I think that knight to f4 looks nice and simple, forcing the rook to come here. And black simply gets a very, very dominant position with these ponies in the middle, as well as the queen on the h4 square targeting this pawn here. Bishop can come out to d6, you can castle kingside, and black has a very good game. Alternatively, they might take back with the bishop, in which case you'll simply take, and then you can take here, and then take back the pawn in the center, attacking the rook, and really, really dangerous position for white. You can even, if they castle, you can give this check, and after their king moves, you could take on e2, for example, but then that might introduce a pin. So maybe castles first is more accurate, defending the queen first, and threatening all kinds of discoveries on the king here. Okay. So this is how you can deal with the knight to h3 response of this. I know pawn g4 is also quite common. But pawn g4 you can meet in a very similar way with the knight coming out here. And you can even try and sacrifice the knight on g4, for example. And after queen takes on g4, you can play pawn to d5, attacking the bishop and attacking the queen. And let's say the queen moves all the way back. You simply take the bishop. And black is much, much better here. A huge lead in development. We have all our pawns. White's pawn structure is awful with this f pawn backwards. They're missing a g pawn. We've got much, much more development. Very nice open lines for the bishops to develop. We can castle quickly. And black is much better, as you can see here, minus 2.6. So this is how you can deal with this wayward queen attack with pawn e5 as your starting move. But I've been recommending pawn to c5 with the accelerated dragon. But that doesn't stop people. People still love this queen h5 stuff. And you can simply play this move pawn to e6, which shuts down everything that white's trying to do. After white develops the bishop, as you can see, they're just eating into this pawn chain here. There's no attack on the f7 pawn because the pawn hasn't advanced all the way. And I've even seen games where white just takes this pawn saying, haha, now I've got my free pawn, the wayward queen attack worked, and black simply recaptures the queen and wins the game. So this is nice to know. The bishop nicely covers the pawn. Your knight will come to f6. So let's say that they develop the bishop in line with their scholar's mate plan. You can simply develop your knight here to f6, hit the queen, develop the other knight to c6. Same exact plans. You're going to be putting the knights in the center. Let's say they do the knight to h3 stuff. You get to go here, here, and it's even more venomous with this e6 d5 idea because they can't even give this check because the knight covers it. So let's say their bishop has to go back to e2. You get to snap off on h3 and simply develop the bishop, castle the king, and you will have a very, very strong kingside initiative all the way over here. So I'll just give one sample line. You can, for example, bring the queen to e7 and then put the queen on e5. So let's say that they just aren't paying any attention to what you're doing. You could end up with a position where you get your queen to e5, they have to play f4, and then they have a very, very shaky position to try and hold on to on the king side. This might not be the most accurate way to deal with it. Potentially just bringing in another rook into attack to pressure the bishop is better. But equally, you could just go for this checkmate threat. It's quite hard to play, especially with this f pawn pushing forward. Their king becomes very airy. Okay. That's about all of the key information that I wanted to cover in this video. Bit of a shorter one than normal, but I hope that it was useful and can help you to prevent some wayward queen attacks that you might find your opponents doing. If this did help you in some chess game that you're going to play, then please consider liking and subscribing, as that would definitely help me out. And other than that, yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye. Bye.